Commander Dex of the Stellar Armada stared out from the bridge of his flagship, the inevitable conquest, at the small blue planet rotating innocently below. Earth, as the natives called it. A resource-rich world on the fringes of the galaxy, populated by a primitive species that had barely managed to leave their own atmosphere. "Status report," Dex demanded, his four eyes blinking in sequence. "All ships in position, Commander," replied Officer Tarn. "Planetary defenses are minimal. They have no knowledge of our presence. The conquest of Earth had been planned for decades. The Armada had studied human technology, military capabilities, and social structures. According to all projections, the invasion would be swift and decisive. Humanity would fall within days, joining the hundreds of other species now serving the Armada's vast empire. "Begin the first phase," Dex ordered. "Disable their communications and power grids." The order was relayed throughout the fleet of 30 massive warships. Energy weapons charged silently in the vacuum of space, then released coordinated pulses toward strategic points across Earth's surface. In military bases across Earth, generals and leaders received reports of massive power outages and communications, blackouts spreading across continents. Emergency protocols were activated, but confusion reigned. At the North American Combined Defense Command, General Tom Reed was among the first to suspect the truth. "This isn't a natural event or a cyber attack," he said grimly, looking at the pattern of outages on a backup system. "This is coordinated. This is first strike tactics." His second-in-command, Colonel Lisa Winters, looked skeptical. "You're suggesting an invasion? By whom?" Reed pointed to satellite imagery showing strange anomalies just beyond Earth's atmosphere. "By them, whoever they are." On the inevitable conquest, Dex received the preliminary reports with satisfaction. Phase 1 complete. The humans are blind and disorganized. Begin Phase 2. Atmospheric deployment. Thousands of small craft detached from the warships, descending toward Earth's surface. They carried both troops and autonomous battle units, programmed to secure key strategic locations, government centers, military installations, power facilities. What Dex didn't know, what none of the Armada's extensive intelligence had uncovered, was Project Guardian. Hidden in underground facilities around the world, Project Guardian was humanity's insurance policy against the possibility they weren't alone in the universe. It was a collaboration between nations that otherwise remained rivals, a secret so classified that less than 100 humans knew of its existence. And deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility that officially didn't exist, Dr. Alan Miller watched as his sensors detected the approaching invasion force. "They're here," he said simply to the room of scientists and military personnel. Years of preparation had led to this moment, and despite the gravity of the situation, Miller felt an odd sense of validation. Activate Guardian. Around the world, concealed defensive systems hummed to life, powered by independent energy sources. The aliens' initial strike had missed. The systems weren't based on conventional human technology. They incorporated theoretical principles that had taken decades to develop. As the alien crafts began entering Earth's atmosphere, they encountered something unexpected. A field of energy unlike anything in the Armada's experience began to interact with their ship's systems. On the bridge of the inevitable conquest, alarms suddenly blared. "Commander," Tarn shouted, "we're losing contact with the first wave of deployment vessels." Dex rose from his command chair. "Impossible. Explain." "Unknown energy field activating across the planet's atmosphere." "Our vessels. They're failing, Commander." For the first time in his long military career, Dex felt something unfamiliar. Doubt. The alien deployment vessels tumbled from the sky like metallic rain. Across Earth, civilians watched in awe and terror as the crafts crashed into oceans, forests, and deserts. Some managed controlled landings, disgorging confused troops who found themselves facing a prepared enemy. In the Pentagon's Emergency Command Center, hastily established after the power outages, General Reed received the first reports of the downed alien ships. "Guardian is working," he informed the assembled military leaders. "But it won't hold forever. These are just their advance forces." President Wilson, connected via a secure line from a mobile command center, spoke with grim determination. "How long until they adapt?" "Hours, maybe," Reed replied. Dr. Miller says the Guardian field is based on principles they won't immediately understand. On the inevitable conquest, Dex had moved beyond shock to cold calculation. The humans had somehow developed technology that interfered with Armada systems. Technology that his intelligence division had completely missed. "Analysis," he demanded. Science Officer Mira approached cautiously. "The energy field appears to create quantum fluctuations that disrupt our navigation and propulsion systems. It's ingenious, Commander. Nothing in our records shows humans having this capability." "They've been hiding their true technological level," Dex concluded. "A deliberate deception." Officer Tarn disagreed. "Or a recent breakthrough. Perhaps they detected our approach years ago." The thought was unsettling. The Armada had been observing Earth for generations, harvesting data, abducting occasional specimens for study. Had they been observed in turn? "Adapt our systems," Dex ordered, "and prepare the pulse weapon. If they want to fight, we'll remove their capacity to do so." The pulse weapon was a last resort, a device capable of generating an electromagnetic pulse so powerful it would destroy all electronic systems on the planet. It would set human civilization back centuries, making the conquest effortless, if barbaric. On Earth, Dr. Miller and his team monitored the alien fleet's activities through Guardian sensors. "They're reconfiguring their systems," Miller noted, watching energy patterns shift across the alien fleet. "And charging something big. We need to move to Phase 2 before they can deploy it." Colonel Winters, who had joined Miller's team as military liaison, nodded. Activating the spears. Around the world, in hidden silos and underwater bases, massive railguns aligned toward the sky. Unlike Guardian's defensive shield, the spears were humanity's offensive capability. Weapons designed to reach targets in orbit with devastating accuracy. "We only get one coordinated shot before they realize what we have," Miller warned. "Make it count." The command went out. 28 railguns fired simultaneously, launching projectiles at incredible speeds toward the alien fleet. These weren't conventional weapons, but specially designed penetrators carrying a payload developed from studying fragments of alien technology recovered over decades. In space, the Armada had no warning. Their sensors, still struggling with the Guardian field's interference, failed to detect the approaching projectiles until it was too late. 6 warships were struck directly. The penetrators punched through their hulls, releasing their payloads, self-replicating nanomachines that began consuming the ships from within. On the inevitable conquest, Dex watched in horror as the struck ships began to break apart, sections of hull simply disintegrating. "What's happening?" he demanded. "Some kind of molecular disassembly," Mira replied, voice shaking. "It's spreading through the affected ships. Containment efforts are failing." For the first time in the Armada's history, they faced not just resistance, but the possibility of defeat. Dex felt cold dread settling in his core. "Charge the pulse weapon to maximum," he ordered. "We end this now." The Armada's pulse weapon took time to charge, time that humanity used to their advantage. As the alien vessels struggled with the nanomachine infections spreading through their ranks, Earth's militaries mobilized with unexpected coordination. Fighter jets, specially modified to operate despite the Guardian field, took to the skies. They targeted the alien landing craft that had survived, using weapons designed by Miller's team to penetrate their defenses. In orbit, Dex watched with mounting fury as his invasion force was systematically dismantled. "Pulse weapon at 60%, reported Officer Tarn. "We need another 10 minutes to reach full capacity." "We may not have 10 minutes, Dex snapped, watching as another warship succumbed to the human nanomachines. "Bring us around to the dark side of their moon. We'll complete charging there, beyond their weapon range." The inevitable conquest and the remaining fleet began to move, but the retreat didn't go unnoticed. In the Guardian facility, Miller tracked the movement. "They're repositioning, probably to launch a counterattack." "What are they charging?" Winters asked, looking at the energy readings from the alien flagship. The levels were rising exponentially. "Nothing good," Miller replied. "Something that could end us all. We need to move to Phase 3. Phase 3 was the most desperate part of the Guardian protocol, and the part most scientists had believed would never work. Based on theories developed from decades of studying alien propulsion systems, it proposed a method of disrupting faster-than-light capabilities. "Launch the beacon," Miller ordered. From a station in geosynchronous orbit, Disguised as a weather satellite, a small device activated. It began emitting waves of energy that propagated through subspace, the dimension the aliens used for their faster-than-light travel. On the inevitable conquest, alarms blared once again. "Commander," Mira cried. "Something's interfering with our drive core." "Explain," Dex demanded. "Some kind of subspace disruption. It's creating instabilities in our FTL systems. If we try to jump now, we risk catastrophic drive failure." Dex slammed his fist on the command console. "How are they doing this? Their technology shouldn't be capable of affecting subspace." The answer, had Dex known it, would have terrified him more than the current situation. Humanity hadn't developed this technology independently. They'd reverse-engineered it from crashed alien vessels, not just from the Armada, but from other spacefaring species who had visited Earth throughout history. For centuries, humans had been quietly collecting and studying fragments of technology from the stars, piecing together a defense system using the knowledge of a dozen different alien civilizations. "Pulse weapon at 80%, Tarn reported. "But Commander, we're detecting more projectiles launching from Earth." A second wave of railgun fire was underway, this time targeting the retreating ships. The humans had anticipated the fleet's movement and adjusted their aim accordingly. "Evasive maneuvers," Dex ordered. "All power to shields." The massive warships began to twist and turn in space, a desperate dance to avoid the approaching projectiles. Some succeeded, others didn't. 3 more ships were struck, the nanomachines beginning their grim work of disassembly. On Earth, President Wilson addressed an emergency session of the United Nations via secure communication. "We've known this day might come," she told the world. "Leaders. We've prepared for it. But now we face a choice. Do we merely defend ourselves, or do we take the fight to them?" The debate was brief. The images of alien ships falling from the sky had already spread worldwide. Humanity had glimpsed its potential extinction and reacted with characteristic determination. "We push forward," came the consensus. "We show them that Earth is not merely a target. It's a grave for those who would threaten us." The order went out to Miller and his team. "Activate all Guardian systems to full offensive capability." As the pulse weapon on the inevitable conquest reached 90% charge, Dex received news that made his blood run cold. "Commander," said Mira, "we're detecting energy signatures from Earth unlike anything we've seen before. They're powering up something massive. Beneath the Atlantic Ocean, in a facility built into the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, the Guardian Project's most powerful weapon stirred to life. Known simply as the Hammer, it was a massive particle accelerator designed to generate a focused beam of exotic matter that could tear through any known material. Dr. James Foster, Miller's counterpart at the Atlantic facility, monitored the power buildup with careful precision. Targeting solution locked on the alien flagship. Hammer at 60% capacity and rising. Meanwhile, the Armada's pulse weapon had reached full charge. On the bridge of the inevitable conquest, Dex prepared to give the order that would send humanity back to the Stone Age. "Target Earth's northern hemisphere first," he commanded. "That appears to be the source of their primary defenses." Officer Tarn hesitated, an unusual response that drew Dex's immediate attention. "Is there a problem, officer?" "Commander," Tarn said carefully, "our intelligence on the humans was clearly flawed. If we use the pulse weapon and it fails, we will have no remaining option. Perhaps we should consider..." "Consider what? Retreat?" Dex's voice dripped with contempt. "The Armada does not retreat. We have never been defeated in 17 stellar expansions. We will not begin today." "The pulse will fire in 30 seconds, reported the weapons officer. On Earth, Foster watched his own countdown. "Hammer at 90%. We can fire in 45 seconds. Miller's voice came through the communication system. "We need to accelerate. Their weapon is about to discharge. If we fire before full power, we might not penetrate their shields," Foster warned. "If we don't fire now, there might not be an Earth left to defend," Miller countered. Foster made his decision, firing at 93%. From the depths of the Atlantic, a beam of blinding energy erupted, parting the ocean waters in its wake. It shot straight up through the atmosphere and into space, aimed directly at the inevitable conquest. In the same moment, Dex gave the command, "Fire the pulse." 2 weapons of devastating power, products of civilizations separated by light years and centuries of development, discharged simultaneously. The hammer's beam struck the inevitable conquest. First, punching through its forward shields and penetrating the hull, it carved a path straight to the heart of the ship where the pulse weapon was housed. The damage was catastrophic, but not complete. The pulse fired, slightly off target due to the impact, sending its electromagnetic wave toward Earth, but angled, away from the northern hemisphere toward the South Atlantic. Foster felt the facility shake as the pulse passed through Earth's atmosphere. Lights flickered, and systems faltered. "Guardian shields holding," he reported, though his voice was strained. "Damage to external systems, but core functions intact." The pulse had struck mostly empty ocean, its power diffused enough by the Guardian field that coastal cities suffered only temporary outages, rather than complete destruction. On the inevitable conquest, the situation was far more dire. The hammer's beam had caused critical damage to multiple systems. Fires raged through the ship, and atmosphere vented from breached sections. "Containment failing in the drive section," Mira reported, her voice steady despite the chaos. "Commander, we need to abandon ship." Dex stood frozen, watching as his mighty flagship began to come apart around him. "No. Charge the pulse again. We will not be defeated." "The pulse weapon is destroyed, Commander," Tarn said, "and we're receiving distress calls from the remaining fleet. The humans are pressing their attack." Indeed, Earth had launched a third wave of railgun projectiles, this time accompanied by something new, modified nuclear missiles designed to detonate in proximity to alien shields, creating radiation bursts that disrupted their sensor systems. For the first time in his long career, Dex found himself contemplating the unthinkable. "Order all remaining ships to emergency jump coordinates. We must regroup." The words tasted like poison in his mouth. Retreat. The Armada, feared throughout known space, was retreating from a species that had only achieved basic spaceflight as evacuation pods launched from the critically damaged flagship. Dex took one last look at the small blue planet that had brought the mighty Armada to its knees. "This isn't over," he promised silently. The Armada's defeat at Earth shook the foundations of their empire. Never before had an invasion failed so catastrophically. Over half their fleet lay in ruins, including the flagship Inevitable Conquest, which had broken apart in orbit around Earth's moon. Commander Dex, rescued from his evacuation pod by one of the surviving cruisers, found himself explaining the inexplicable to the Armada High Command. "The humans possessed technology far beyond our intelligence estimates," he reported to the grim-faced leaders. "Defensive capabilities that negated our advantages, weapons that could target us in orbit with precision." High Commander Vox, eldest of the command, leaned forward. "How is this possible, Commander Dex? Your mission was preceded by decades of observation." "I believe they detected our surveillance and deliberately concealed their true capabilities," Dex replied. "They allowed us to see only what they wanted us to see." The implications were disturbing. If humans could deceive the Armada so thoroughly, what other species might be hiding their true strength? On Earth, the aftermath of the invasion brought humanity together in unprecedented ways. Old rivalries and conflicts were set aside in the face of confirmation that they were not alone in the universe, and that the universe was hostile. President Wilson addressed a United Nations Assembly, with Dr. Miller standing beside her. "Today marks a new chapter in human history," she declared. "We have faced an enemy from beyond our world, and prevailed. But we must prepare for their return. They will come back, and next time, they will come prepared." The Guardian Project, once the most closely guarded secret on Earth, became the centerpiece of a new global initiative. Resources poured in from every nation as humanity committed to building a more comprehensive defense system. Dr. Miller found himself elevated from obscure researcher to one of the most recognized figures on the planet. "We succeeded this time, because we surprised them," he explained to world leaders. "We won't have that advantage again. Our only hope is to advance our technology faster than they can adapt to it." In orbit, teams worked to salvage what they could from the destroyed alien vessels. Each piece of technology, each fragment of their computers or weapon systems, was a precious resource that could accelerate human development by decades. 6 months after the failed invasion, a breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Helen Park, a linguist who had been studying the aliens' communication systems, made a startling discovery. "We're not the first," she told Miller and Colonel Winters during an emergency meeting. "Look at these transmission patterns we recovered from their computers. They refer to multiple pacification campaigns across different star systems." "An empire," Winters said grimly. "How large?" "Dozens of conquered species, hundreds of worlds," Park replied. "But here's the interesting part. Some of these conquered species have technology more advanced than what the Armada used against us." Miller frowned. "That doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't they use their most advanced technology?" "Because Earth wasn't considered a significant threat," Park explained. "We were classified as a Tier 3 civilization, primitive, barely spacefaring. They didn't bring their best weapons because they didn't think they needed to." The revelation sent a chill through the room. They had barely defeated what amounted to a fraction of the Armada's true capabilities. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the Armada High Command reached a decision that would alter their civilization's history. "The humans represent a unique threat," High Commander Vox declared. "Not just in their unexpected resistance, but in what they might become if left unchecked." The evidence was clear. Humanity had advanced more quickly than any species the Armada had encountered. Their ability to reverse engineer alien technology and adapt it to their own purposes was unparalleled. If given time, they might develop capabilities that could threaten the Armada's dominance. "We must launch a full-scale assault," another commander argued. "Commit our entire fleet, our most advanced weapons. Reduce their world to ash." But Dex, still bearing the shame of defeat, offered a different perspective. "A direct assault would be costly, even with our full strength. The humans have proven resourceful. They will be preparing for our return." "What do you suggest, Commander?" Vox asked. Dex's 4 eyes narrowed. "A more subtle approach. We have agents among other species. We could manipulate events, turn potential allies against them, isolate Earth before striking again." The strategy was approved. The Armada would work from the shadows, using proxies and deception to ensure that when they returned to Earth, humanity would stand alone. 3 years passed. Earth transformed under the shadow of impending conflict. The Guardian Project expanded into a global defense network, with stations on the Moon and Mars providing early warning systems. Humanity's first true interplanetary fleet took shape in orbital shipyards, vessels incorporating salvaged alien technology alongside human innovation. Dr. Miller, now heading the newly formed Earth Defense Directorate, reviewed the latest intelligence with his senior staff. "Still no sign of Armada activity in our solar system," reported Admiral Winters, formerly Colonel, now commanding Earth's growing Space Force. "But our deep space monitoring is detecting unusual movements in the Tau Ceti system." Miller nodded grimly. "They're patient, building their strength, studying us from a distance." Dr. Park, who had developed the first comprehensive translation of the Armada's language, added another concern. "Based on the communications we've intercepted, I believe they're attempting to contact other spacefaring species, ones that might have reason to fear human expansion." This aligned with their worst fears, that the Armada would try to isolate Earth diplomatically before attacking again. What the humans couldn't know was how dramatically their victory had altered galactic politics. For centuries, the Armada had maintained their empire through fear and the perception of invincibility. The news that a primitive world had repelled them spread through subspace communications, whispered among subjugated species. In the Armada High Command, Dex had risen to become Senior Strategic Commander, his failure at Earth paradoxically providing him with insights no other leader possessed. He had made the study of humanity his obsession, analyzing every scrap of information about their advancing technology. "They've developed rudimentary, faster-than-light communication," he informed the High Command, "based on principles they extracted from our damaged ships. At this rate of advancement, they'll achieve limited FTL travel within a decade." High Commander Vox, looking notably older, regarded Dex with concern. "Your recommendation?" "We proceed with the coalition strategy," Dex replied. "The Novan Collective has agreed to establish a blockade in the Proxima Centauri system. The Trade Federation will restrict technology exports to Sol. When isolated, Earth will be vulnerable. But Dex harbored doubts he didn't share. His study of humanity had revealed a resourcefulness that continued to surprise him. They adapted to challenges in ways the more rigid Armada culture couldn't match. On Earth, these qualities were proving decisive. When the first signs of the blockade appeared, unusual energy signatures near Alpha Centauri detected by their long-range sensors, humanity didn't panic. They innovated. Miller convened a special council with the world's leading scientists and military strategists. "They're trying to box us in," he explained. "Standard containment tactics, according to the Armada playbook we've reconstructed." Dr. Jack Thompson, a physicist who had been studying the alien FTL drives, offered a radical proposal. "What if we don't need to break the blockade? What if we can bypass it entirely?" His team had been developing a theoretical approach to faster-than-light travel different from the Armada's method. While the aliens used a form of subspace manipulation, Thompson proposed using quantum entanglement to create folds in spacetime. "It's untested," he acknowledged. "But the Armada won't be looking for this approach because it's not how they think." The project, codenamed Leapfrog, became Earth's secret weapon, while openly building conventional defenses and ships that the Armada's spies would detect. They poured resources into Thompson's alternative FTL drive. 6 months later, humanity's first test vessel using the quantum fold drive, the Pathfinder, prepared for its maiden voyage. If successful, it would bypass the growing blockade and open diplomatic channels with other species before the Armada could turn them against Earth. Captain Robert Davis, selected to command the experimental ship, received final instructions from Miller himself. "This mission could determine the future of our species," Miller told him. "If you succeed, you'll establish humanity's first contact with potential allies. If you fail—" "I understand the stakes," Davis replied. "We won't fail." As the Pathfinder moved to its launch position beyond Mars' orbit, Armada long-range sensors detected unusual energy readings. Dex, receiving the report, felt a familiar sense of dread. What are they doing now, he wondered, ordering immediate analysis of the readings. Before the Armada could determine the nature of the experiment, the Pathfinder activated its drive. There was a brief, brilliant flash of light, and then the ship was gone, having bypassed conventional space entirely. Dex stared at the readings in disbelief. Somehow, the humans had developed an entirely new approach to faster-than-light travel, one that rendered the carefully planned blockade meaningless. For the second time, humanity had outmaneuvered the mighty Armada, and Dex knew with grim certainty that it would not be the last. The Pathfinder's successful journey beyond the Armada's blockade changed everything. Captain Davis and his crew emerged near Tau Ceti, home to the Solarian Alliance, a loose confederation of worlds that had thus far maintained neutrality toward the Armada. When the human ship appeared using an unknown form of FTL travel, the Solarians were both alarmed and intrigued. Here was a species that had not only resisted the Armada, but had now developed technology that bypassed their control of traditional space lanes. "We come seeking alliance," Davis told the Solarian Council. "Earth stands against Armada expansion, but we cannot stand alone." The Solarians were cautious, but the demonstration of human ingenuity had made an impression. They agreed to open diplomatic channels, the first step toward a potential alliance that could challenge Armada dominance. When news of the diplomatic contact reached the Armada High Command, it triggered a crisis. Their strategy of isolation had failed before it truly began. "This changes our calculus entirely," High Commander Vox declared. "If the humans ally with the Solarians, others will follow. We must strike immediately before a coalition forms." But Dex, having studied human behavior for years, counseled restraint. "A direct assault plays to their strengths. They've been preparing their defenses since our last encounter. We need to understand their new technology before we engage them again." His warning was dismissed. The Armada, accustomed to swift, overwhelming victories, could not tolerate another challenge to their authority. The decision was made. The entire fleet would converge on Sol System for a massive assault that would destroy Earth once and for all. As the Armada began to mobilize, Dex took a fateful step. Using his position, he arranged for detailed plans of the assault to be leaked through channels that Earth's intelligence networks had penetrated. It was an act of betrayal unprecedented in Armada history, driven by Dex's growing conviction that the High Command's rigid thinking would lead to disaster. On Earth, the warning arrived with just enough time to prepare. Miller and the Defense Directorate enacted their contingency plan, codenamed Ragnarok, a last-resort defense that they had hoped never to use. When the Armada fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system, they found not a panicked world, but a carefully laid trap. The humans had positioned quantum mines throughout the system, devices that created localized space-time distortions when triggered. "Multiple contacts," reported Admiral Winters from the orbital command station. "Over 200 vessels, largest class designated dreadnoughts in the lead." Miller gave the order. "Initiate Ragnarok." The quantum mines activated in sequence, creating a cascading wave of space-time distortions that engulfed the Armada fleet. Ships were torn apart as space itself warped around them. Technology far beyond what the Armada believed humans capable of developing. On the command ship, Dex watched as the fleet was decimated. He had warned them, had tried to convey the danger that humanity posed, but pride and complacency had prevailed. In the chaos, he made his decision. As emergency protocols activated and evacuation began, Dex took a small craft and set course not for the designated retreat coordinates, but for Earth. The Battle of Sol, as it would come to be known, ended in hours. Of the mighty Armada fleet, less than 20 ships escaped the quantum trap. The Armada's aura of invincibility was shattered beyond repair. On Earth, celebrations were tempered by the knowledge that they had nearly faced extinction. When Dex's small craft was detected approaching Earth, defense systems locked on immediately. "Single occupant," Winters reported, "requesting communication." To everyone's surprise, it was Dex himself who appeared on the screen. "I seek asylum," he said simply, "and I bring information vital to Earth's future." The former Armada commander was taken into custody, but his intelligence proved invaluable. He revealed the full extent of the Armada's empire, the locations of their key worlds, and, most importantly, the growing unrest among subjugated species who had heard of Earth's resistance. 6 months later, a historic gathering took place on Earth. Representatives from a dozen spacefaring civilizations, including the Solarians, came to discuss the formation of a new interstellar alliance, one founded on mutual respect rather than conquest. Miller, now serving as Earth's diplomatic representative, addressed the assembly. "Today we begin a new chapter in galactic history, not one of domination, but of cooperation. The Armada's defeat has opened the door to freedom for countless worlds." Among those in attendance, sitting quietly at the back, was Dex. His defection had shocked the remnants of the Armada leadership, but it had also triggered a reckoning within their society. Young officers, inspired by Earth's example, were beginning to question the policies of endless conquest. As the conference concluded with the signing of the Alliance Charter, Miller approached Dex. "You risked everything to warn us. Why?" Dex considered the question carefully. "Because in studying humanity, I came to understand something the Armada had forgotten. True strength lies not in conquest but in adaptation, not in dominance, but in cooperation. And that's why Armada commanders stay silent about the day humanity fought back," Miller realized. "Because it reveals the flaw in their entire philosophy." Dex nodded slowly. "The story of Earth's resistance is forbidden knowledge in what remains of the Empire. To speak of it is to admit that the foundational beliefs of the Armada, that might makes right, that advanced technology guarantees victory, are false." As news of the Alliance spread across the galaxy, more worlds began to resist Armada control. The empire that had stood for centuries began to crumble, not through direct confrontation, but through the power of an idea, that resistance was possible. And on distant worlds, when young officers asked why certain star systems were avoided, why Earth was never mentioned in official histories, their commanders remained silent, because to tell the truth would be to admit that their way of life was built on a lie, and that a small blue planet on the galactic fringe had revealed that lie to the universe.